Hi everybody, Shawn back from the SciFi Model Guy, and welcome to Chapter 9 of the U.S.S. Enterprise 1701-C build. We have a ton packed in this one, folks. It's a little over an hour long, so strap yourselves in or go ahead and split this one into a couple watt sessions. But there's a lot to unpack in this one. We're going to be fixing the light leak problem in the nacelles. We're going to be repainting the saucer section, painting the lifeboats, and going over a ton of little tips like getting paint out of a can, which is called decanting, and just a lot of other stuff that's in this one. So we're really on that downhill slide, folks. I'm anticipating one video more for this, maybe two, but we're coming down to it, folks. And before we go any further, thank you all for your subscriptions, and if you are enjoying these videos and haven't yet subscribed, would really appreciate if today was the day we earned your subscription on the channel. It's very much appreciated. So aside from that, I'm going to take a pause before we get to the meat of the video, and I'm going to show you where we are currently. I'm really jazzed about it, and I just want to show it off. I don't want to wait a whole week to show you where we are at on it. So enjoy the video, guys. Happy modeling, and we'll see you down the road. Take care. Hey everybody, here's just a little bit of a sneak peek before we get to the meat of the video. So as you can see here, we're looking at the saucer section. She's all painted, and the lifeboats, escape pods are ready to go. All we have to do here left is the phaser arrays and the decals on the saucer section. And the bottom you've seen before. We'll turn that over in a second. And I just want to go over here to the engineering section, the secondary hull. That's all ready to go. These are just some wires I've taped on the outside. And then, of course, the rear section. Just got a couple minor light leaks to fix up on this part, and she's ready to go too. So we're really coming down to it, folks. Yeah, and without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the lights because I did get the windows all scraped out too. So we're going to show you what that looks like in 3, 2, 1. And there we go. Really happy with the way this is turning out, everyone. As you can see, we didn't light all of the windows. A lot of them are dark, and I really like the way that adds a little bit more realism to the ship. And it's really cool the way when you pan around on this, the lights become more intense or less intense, and it adds a good sense of scale. So this clear model, once light blocked properly as we had to do, really is turning out good. So yeah, I just wanted to give this a little show off to you folks and show you kind of where we are now. It's a little bit of a sneak peek, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the model over so we can see the bottom. And it's a similar effect. Really, really good. It's turning out good. I'm super happy, everyone. Just really happy to share this with you, and thank you all for taking this ride with me. And without further ado, I'm going to stop this here, and we'll get to this video where we have tons packed in there for you. Stay tuned. All right, folks, so we've got the saucer section here set up in the paint station, aka the other side of the garage, and I want to show you. So we're going to be fixing the light leak problem on the ship. So I'm bringing this a little closer to you. As you can see, you can only see this little bit right there in the normal light, but when we turned off the lights, we saw all kinds of light leaks here around the top section and on the sides of the ship here. So didn't get enough light blocking there. So what I've done, I just want to show you, I've masked the entire bottom of the saucer section. Let me pull it out here. Just flat tape, and I let it kind of hang over the edge because I'm going to be blocking, light blocking here. I've got a battery hooked up here to the wires, so I need to. So yeah. So and again, this is a good thing. I remember there was one person that suggested a few videos back. It might have been even with the Enterprise to create the regular Enterprise to make a light table to shine up and do this. And that's actually something I thought of, but we don't have that available right now. So I've got the old 9-volt battery connected here, and again, you can't see anything, but when I turn off the lights, you will definitely see it. So I'm recording this just to show you how I'm attacking this problem, and maybe this will be something that's useful going forward in the future, to do this method and turn off lights and really check for those light leaks. So I'm going to go ahead and shake my can here. Again, we're going with just regular old flat black primer, and this is going to hurt, folks. So I'm shaking up the can. I've got it shook up real good. I was shaking about a minute before this. I'm taking these shop towels here. I'm going to cover my battery and the wires. I'm going to cover the battery and the wires with a shop towel just to avoid any paint getting on it. Give it a few more shakes and I'm going to test. All right, so I'm just going to go over again to reiterate for everyone. When you're painting, you want to try to start from outside of the area, hit the button, and come over it. And you don't want to engage the button directly over it because you will get more paint where you engage the button or it will pool. So it's a good idea when you can to start it out here and go over it. So I'm going very lightly. Again, this hurts. I'm going to give it a little bit thing. I've got my little cake decorating turntable here, which was a great investment. Give a little shot there. When I turn off the lights, you're going to see the light leaks here. So here I go. I've got my little flashlight so I can find my way around. And disengaging the lights now. Okay, and let me look at the camera here so I can still see. If you look in the middle of the screen there, you will see a bright spot, and then along the edges as well, which I didn't really paint, but I'm going to turn it so hopefully you can see this. So they're really coming out bright on the camera. In real light here, it's not as bright, but I do see a lot of them. So I'm going to turn the light back on here. Let the camera adjust. Okay. So I'm going to let this top here dry. I did see some other light spots there, but I'm going to go ahead and do the edges. And again, I had masked underneath just because I didn't want any black getting underneath the saucer, because I was very happy with the way those colors came out. And there's no light leak problems down there. So now I'm just going along trying to go for the edge here and block the edge of the saucer section here. So anyway, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about with this turning off the lights technique here that we're doing, I just kind of thought of this. So I think I'm going to be doing this going forward for any other ships where I really, especially with the clear models, to really make sure I've got everything. Turn off the lights and even turn on the camera, because the camera will pick up these spots a lot easier. They look more bright and apparent with the camera than they do with the naked eye. So all right, we're going to do another test here. Turning off the lights. And I'm looking here, and I see just a couple of spots. Now they are showing on the top of the saucer. All right, folks, so I'm going to turn the camera off here. I'm going to let this dry overnight and really get there and turn the fan on. It's just primer. It dries real quickly, but yeah, I just want to make sure everything dries really properly, because tomorrow I am going to mask everything and get this sucker painted, and then do the reveal video, recorded anyway tomorrow, and we'll keep going. So that's it for now. Thanks again. Hope you all learned something on this little segment. I sure did, and we'll be back. All right, everyone, I'm going to take a crack here at these light leaks here on the nacelles with the chiller grills. So I'm going to, once again, I'm going to lift this up so we can see. So I've got some very big light leaks right here where the curve starts on both sides, and I've got some pretty bad light leaks coming on the bottom there, as well as the top. So yeah, light leaks all around on this. Really not happy with it. But so we're going to attack this the best we can. I think it's going to come out okay. It's just a little bit more work than I wanted. So I've got all my tools here. I've got my palette knife. I've got a little palette thing for the putty. I've got a tin cup here, and that is to mix the putty with some water, which I've got right here, a little bottle of water there. So when I want to do the beading of just lightly putting it in there on the smaller gaps, I can use this syringe here, suck up some of the paste that I'm going to make with the putty, and slowly fill that in. So there's going to be multiple techniques here. So first of all, there goes some noise. The first things we're going to do is I'm just going to attack these big gaps, especially here in the corners there. And I'm going to have to do that with the palette knife. There's just no other way around. I've been thinking on it quite a bit, and I'm going to have to just give it a shot. Now, I do have some blue towel here ready. I'm going to get that wet. So when I lay this down, I'm going to get this thing nice and damp and wipe away the excess. So I might have to make multiple passes at this to fill this gap. And again, I'm not anticipating getting all this in one go. I'm probably going to have to get some of this done, let it dry, and then come back over it again. And then after that, come back and paint over it. So as we can see here, some of the glue I used did kind of get some of the clear blue I had melted. So I'm going to have to repaint that with the airbrush at some point. We're going to have to remask everything and do it. So yeah, I really wish this would have gotten a lot easier, folks. So hopefully it's just this kit. What I'm going to do is, after I'm done fixing this, because I do have to fix this, I'm going to break open one of my other kits and fit it together. And maybe I made a mistake somewhere of maybe these chiller grills actually matter where you put them. I don't think they did, but it shouldn't, because these are symmetrical pieces. But you never know. It could have just been different. Who knows if I went wrong at all somewhere, or if it's just this particular kit. I did see a comment from from a viewer saying that these are warped, no pun intended. So anyway, so without speaking too much more here, I'm just going to go ahead and lay the putty in. That's a little dry there. Come on out. There we go. Now again, when we work with this, we do a little at a time, because this perfect plastic putty does dry out very quickly. Okay, so I'm going to start with the bottom part of the port nacelle. I'm going to try to get it in there without smearing too much onto the chiller grill, because these are rigid lines and this stuff will be a bear to get out. So you're just watching me fiddle with this. I'm using my dental pick now. I hope I'm on the camera. And by the way, I do have the power on here, and what I've done is I have taped the positive and negative wires down to the table here, because I'm going to be moving this around, and I don't want the wires to touch and risk any kind of a meltdown or a burnout. So that's a lesson I learned from last time. So I'm just going really slow. I was initially using the the palette knife, but I'm using this dental pick now, hoping that I can get this in. And it doesn't want to kind of come off of here. I might have to just use the palette knife. There we go. Okay, covered okay. I'm just worried a little bit about this, moving this around a little bit, because like I said before, this putty will crack. It's not meant to be very flexible. Okay, well there we go. You know what? It's not too bad. I'll give that a good wipe down. And I might have to come back over it. So I'm just going to use my finger here. I'm just using this to wipe. I'm going to have to get another blue towel to dampen. Thankfully this putty is a thing, you know. Whoever makes it is a savior. Where would we be without it? I guess it's one of those necessary evils, as they say. Okay, so I don't know if you can catch here what I'm doing, but the just wiping it through with my finger seems to be working pretty well. And with the power on, it lets me really attack these light leaks a lot better. So I'm not guessing. And I know, like when I plug the hole, I know I've plugged the hole. Yeah, I'm trying to go a little slow. All right. So yeah, that's working pretty well, I must say. Much better than I anticipated. I think the glue that I had laid down in there, I may not. It's providing a base for this putty to hold onto or to stick, so it's not kind of falling through the crack as it were. I've gone ahead and sprayed this blue with some damp. Now I may end up wiping off some of the work I've just done, and that's okay. I can always come back and redo it. So I'm just going to go lightly. See that I'm picking up some. I'm going to find another clean part. I want to be careful not to use the same piece of this towel as I go through, because then I would just be smearing this stuff all over the place, and I don't want to do that. So, well, what do you know? It's turning out okay, folks. I'm going to give it a little bit more of a more pressure here as I wipe this in. That's working really well. I'm very, very relieved. I did see I wiped some off here. So what I'm going to do, I've done good here. I'm going to wipe off a little bit more. Hopefully you can see this. So I'm just going to wipe off. I am going to have to come back through and do another round on the corners here. There's quite a bit of putty in there. So, yeah. There we go. I'm not sure if you can see it. Let me stand up here and I'll look into the camera and see what we're seeing. So I've laid it down here. There's a little bit of a hole there, a little bit of light leak left. But all in all, on the bottom here, it really sealed up nicely. And I almost can't see it. Almost. So I'm going to have to come back through. I will come back through with the airbrush and the clear blue mask and redo that. But the light leak's gone, and that's a great thing. So if you're building along with me and you're at this stage and see light leaks, there is a solution. This perfect plastic putty is perfect. It's amazing stuff. Okay, folks. All right, I'm not going to record anymore other than to say right here, I'm going to have a lot of paint to go back over right there. That's pretty ugly. I'm going to go ahead and finish the putty work here. And sorry about my voice here. I'm not very clear. I'm just very tired. It's like 1:30 in the morning right now. But I wanted to get this done and let it dry overnight. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera. And when it's all done, we'll come back and show it. But this method is working good. The palette knife worked well. Got it wiped down very quickly with a nice damp glue roll here, and I don't think I'm going to need to use the syringe method and beat it in there. It does work, but like I said, I'm going to be going through and just do the putty all the way through to give it consistency, and it might look natural, like it's part of the ship. So I won't need to beat it, bead into here. So we'll just go with the way we're doing, wipe with the finger and wipe clean. So all right, guys, I'm a lot more happy. And just I'm gonna tilt the camera here just to show you what I meant about the power supply. Actually, I'll just take it off and take out the, bear with me. And what I've done here, so the power, I've taped it here because since I was moving it around, I don't want these to kind of come, definitely don't want these positive and negative coming in contact with each other. Yeah, so I've just got it all kind of wired up. But yeah, looking good. Okay, folks, we'll see you in a moment. Hey, everybody. Okay, I just want to take a little quick moment here. I've got the camera zoomed in, and the puttying is going very well, like before. And I just wanted to take a quick moment and pause here and talk about how I'm getting the putty off. These chiller grills, if you haven't been familiar with this kit, they're rigid. So if they're like a Ruffles potato chip. So this putty gets into these grooves, and it's important to get it out. So what I'm doing here is I have these little swabs that come in containers. And again, I'm very zoomed in here. So these are the little containers. I've got a bunch of these that my cousin gave me. So I've got one of these, and what I'm doing, I've got the tin down here that I'm swirling it around. It's just water. And I'm just going through here and going in one direction. And I've got a towel here, and I can wipe it off. And I'm coming in here, get it damp again. And it's picking up this stuff pretty nicely. Obviously, the more you let it dry out, the more you're going to have to kind of scrub to get it out. But like I said, this putty is water soluble, and this is really working well to get the putty out of these grooves. And I can almost just run it along the length of the nacelle to get it out. So a couple of these areas I'm having to kind of scrub it a little bit, and it's working really good. I'm not using the dental pick or a toothpick or anything, because that could scratch the paint. This is actually like a fibrous, soft surface that I'm wiping it down with. So there's no danger of chipping the paint or wiping paint off, and this is working good. It's just a little bit tedious work. You got to kind of keep at it, but it is working rather well. A little bit more in there, but yeah, she's coming along good. I just have this this side to do. This side I'm going to have to clean up some. Right there. And we'll go. So we'll be back with the next segment and show you when everything's cleaned up and what the next steps are. Stay tuned. Hey folks, all the light blocking has been done, at least as much as I could do. So I'm going to quickly show you here. I've got some tape here that I've put over the chiller grill, and I'm going to be touching up the nacelle. So you can see here, here's a good example. Right down here on the bottom of the nacelle, let me get my pointer. Down here you see this white here, and that is the putty. So I just went ahead and filled all that in. And some did get kind of on the chiller grill here, and I got out most of it with just a wet rag and, wet blue towel, and I did some with little cotton swabs here that are craft. So you can see here where I rubbed off and got a little bit of the blue paint onto there, because this got into the chiller grills pretty well. And then I also used these here, which are kind of a little bit more bristly, and they got in. So I was just going through, getting this wet and just kind of scraping in there to get it off. It was a bit messy. I didn't like doing that kind of cleanup because it's never perfect. So I am going to have to go back over and repaint the chiller grills with some blue. But that's okay. The light blocks worked pretty well. And so now I've got a little bit of a little tiny brush here, and I've got some Deck Tan XF55, which is just a little acrylic paint, and I'm just gonna go through and paint over the part that I got white. Now I did put this over here because I want to avoid getting any paint on to the blue chiller grill, because that would actually block light. So I'm just going just very lightly. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to, if you're doing this, you don't want it too much paint on your brush. That's why I'm recording this here to go over it. And it's okay to get the tape, of course. Now this Deck Tan is not a perfect match by any means. And actually Tamiya does not make a bottled version of the base color of this. This is a light gray. And they just don't make, my hand's a little shaky there. A little too much coffee. So yeah, Tamiya doesn't make a bottled version of the gray that I used here. I think they have one that's a little closer, but I just don't have it. I have a lot of grays, but not one that's too close. But this is coming out okay. It's not a perfect match, but that's all right. So I'm going to turn it over here now, and I'm going to do the other side. This is the bottle. It's Deck Tan. I don't know why they call it a tan. It is a gray, but... And I've just got the model kind of propped up on this roll of tape to give me a decent angle. And then I'll go through and do the other sides of the nacelle and the other nacelle itself. Let me move my light a little bit here so I can see. If you can see here, the nacelle is still popping off. I am going to glue it. I just haven't glued it yet because I am moving this thing around quite a bit while I work on the nacelle, so I haven't quite glued it down yet. So I'm of two minds of that. Gluing it down would be beneficial because I right now risk pulling the wires out. But on the other hand, I don't want to glue it down because I'm moving it around so much. I don't want to weaken that glue and then risk it coming off, in which case I'd have to re-glue it, and that never really works out too well, putting glue on glue. So I want to glue it one time. So I'm just being very careful with it. I probably could glue it and it would be fine, but I'm just choosing this. So that's good. Let's go ahead and take off this mask and see how we did. Now this nacelle, this chiller grill here happened to be pretty bad with the wiping. I've got a lot of here. I've scrubbed it down a few times. So the paint will take care of that. The other ones aren't quite as bad, but this one did get a lot of putty into there. I must have smeared it with a finger on a wipe through. That's going to be okay. Definitely going to figure out a different way next time I build this kit of assembling these and getting them taking care of this light block problem. So if anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. So anyway, okay, I'm going to cut this segment here. I just wanted to show what I'm doing, and hopefully everything will look a lot better when we come back. Okay, everyone, as you can see here, we've got a big green frog tape mess, and I've gone ahead and painted the gray parts of the nacelles as talked about in the last segment with the Deck Tan, which is a pretty approximate gray. So now I'm ready to go ahead and just go over the chiller grills here with the clear blue. It's not something I really wanted to do. I don't like breaking out the airbrush really just to do such a small bit like this, because cleaning it is going to take longer than painting. So when I do airbrush, I like to make sure I have plenty to do. So, but anyway, I want to get this part done. So I've masked up the ship here as well as I could. And now I do know I'm going to get some blue back down. I'm going to have to go back over and probably touch up again where I had painted over the putty. But that's okay. I knew I was going to have to do that. But I had painted over. It's dry enough. And I've got the airbrush loaded. Here we go. With the Tamiya clear blue. So, pardon my arm there. This is the clear blue that I'm actually running out of. It's X23 Tamiya clear blue. It's a great blue for the chiller grill. And I just put a little bit of paint in there. And this is about 75% thinner to 25% paint. So I've gone ahead and tested it. And you're going to hear my my airbrush kick in. So I have my blue towel there. It's ready to go. And this will be more than enough than what I need. So what I'm going to do here is try to spray it as directly in. I don't want to go at an angle down, because I'm going to try to avoid getting it on the actual nacelle part, because these chiller grills are kind of embedded in there. So I'm going to go straight at it. From my angle, I'm going straight into it, so it doesn't look like that on the camera. And here we go. I'm just going to give very light pressure on the trigger. And this is not to get it too perfect. I just want to get over and clean it up and get over the little white parts that I've done. So I'm barely pulling back on this. And for those of you who don't know the airbrush that I use, this is a dual action airbrush. And if you're not familiar with it, a dual action means you press the button down to release air, and then you pull it back to release paint. So the further back you release paint, the trigger, the more paint comes out. So it's a really nice way to control how much. So a little segue there. So I'm barely letting out any paint, and I'm getting very close to the model. And I have the airbrush is set at about 15 psi. 15 psi as when it's depressed. So when I'm holding it down, it's 15 psi coming out. And you can hear it coming on and off, because I don't have a very large tank. Okay. Very light. Now I am tilting it up, and I can see more, so I am going to have to get in there. Didn't want to have to do that, but I still got the shakes from the coffee today. Okay. The insides here are going to be a little challenging. Can't get as close. One second here. Let me rearrange my light if I can. There we go. Hopefully this is still on camera, and it looks like it is. It's cleaning up okay. Oops. Again, not as perfect as I'd wanted it, but what are you gonna do, huh? I think it's still gonna look great. For me, anyway. And I'm barely pulling back on this, everyone, so if it looks like I'm really flooding it with paint, I'm really not. I still got a ton left in here. And I'll put this here. Look at this side. Now this one I just have a little bit to do there. That's actually from glue. that kind of came off there. It's not going to be perfect, but it's okay. Get the inside there. I'm going to hit this one a little bit more. If you haven't seen, off to the side I have a little holster for my airbrush. Man, my hand is really shaking today. Let me get this. Part of it's a little bit of nerves just to get the, I don't want to mess this up, so I'm trying to hold it real still, and it's actually working against me. This is much better. Thankfully, the backs of these are fine. Okay. That looks all right. This one looks all right. That one could be better. Give this another shot here. And this paint's very translucent, so it does let a lot of light through, so I'm not worried about this light blocking. Although it could have ended up being a little brighter for my taste, but it's still going to be glowing and nice and subtle. So I think at the end I'm going to be happy with subtle glows and not giant bright blue things blinding me. I want this ship to be subtle. Okay, that's it, everyone. That's the extent. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to take off the tape, and I'll come right back, and we'll take a look and see how it looks and what touch-up we might have to do with the deck tan. And then after that, we're going to talk about painting the lifeboats on here. So I've got some techniques for that. And then after that, we're going to be remasking the top of the saucer section. I've been kind of putting that off because who wants to do things for the second time? So, but that's okay. We'll come back. So we got a lot of painting coming up, and then we're going to put the model together. We don't have much longer to go, folks. See you in a minute. Hey guys, so I've got the camera off of the mounting arm there, and I'm just going to take a little pan around what I've done here so far. So the repainting of the chiller grills didn't quite come out as nice as I had hoped. You can kind of see some dark splotches there and some paint. In person, it doesn't look as bad, thankfully. The camera is really picking up every minute little flaw, and these lights are a lot brighter on the screen than what I'm looking at. So this here is the starboard nacelle. Now, thankfully, the outsides are a little bit better than the in. I've got the model here on my cake decorator thing. So it looks like you got a little bit more light leaks problems right there. I'm not sure how I'm going to go tackle that. Probably the same as before, just a little bit of putty work in there. And this here on the inside of the starboard nacelle, this is really the worst bit of it. As you can see here, I actually ended up wiping down some of this paint. Wiped it off because it just wasn't looking good. So I'm going to have to come back later and hit this again with the airbrush, and I'll do it with the lights on so that I can see kind of where I'm doing with it. So it might end up just having to be a lot darker than I wanted, but this looks horrible now, but it's going to be okay. The light leaks are pretty much taken care of, though. I'm happy to report. Except, of course, just in the back here, which I didn't put putty on the back of the nacelles previously. So I'm going to have to address that. But again, the major light leaks are taken care of, even though you do see some dark spots there of the paint that I'd put on. But it's a lot better than it was, I'll tell you that for sure. I'd rather have the nacelles looking a little tiny bit funky than have light just pouring out of them like they were. So what else have I done? Oh, I went ahead and just glued the nacelles to the struts or whatever these are called, and it was just getting tired of them flopping around on me, and so I decided just to glue them. And I went ahead and put the Bussard collectors on, as you can see here, and they have a pretty good fit. No light leaks really that I can tell. There's one little bit on the bottom of the starboard nacelle. Let me see if I can lift it up. Just that little tiny bit on the end. I'm probably not even going to worry about that. Maybe just a little brush of some paint on there. Again, but this right here is the worst part of it, but I will make that much better with the airbrush. Let me turn it around here. Here's the inside of the nacelle. And again, the camera picks up these flaws a lot more than the human eye does, folks. So not to worry about that. If you're doing this at home, you know, maybe we definitely could have figured out a better way to do the light blocking, or hopefully maybe this was just this particular kit that these didn't fit well on. I'm still happy with this though. I mean, don't get me wrong, I sound a little bit down, but I think we're okay here. One thing I did notice though, when I turn off the lights, I've got a pretty nasty light leak coming out here where the nacelle comes together, the top and bottom half. And I'm going to turn off the lights here in a second. And this one, you can really see it. Now, I can pinch it together and it closes, but I'm not going to bother with glue on there because the glue would actually eat the paint away a lot more than I would be happy with. I probably would have been better if I had glued it before I put the Bussard collector on, gone in there with some glue, held it down and taped it. But alas, I didn't do that. So this is thin enough where I can put the putty on with the beading method through the syringe. So, okay, so with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the light here so we can take a better look. And the Bussard collectors, you can see in the dark, they really shine. They are kind of dull, and again, I'm happy with that. I don't want these things to be extremely bright. Again, the camera is picking up the lights much brighter than in what my eyes are seeing. But anyway, yeah, it's good. Like I said, I'm looking at this through the artist's eyes of, you know, where you're a little bit more critical of yourself than like what someone else might do. Like if I were to walk in and see what someone else had done this, I'd say, hey, this looks really nice. You got the nice lights on there. They're the green and the red. Everything's looking sharp, except of course that part, which I will correct. Let me see here. Turn on the light. And again, sorry for the audio. I don't have my mic plugged in. I'm using the phone. All right, folks. Well, yeah, that's just a little bit of an update there. Wanted to show you there. And then the other thing I have to fix is I got a little bit of blue overspray right here on the top of the nacelle, and I got some there as well. So I'm going to have to mask this off again and just give it a quick shot with the light blue spray paint. That'll go away real quick. It's a super simple fix there. Yeah. Anyway, so we're looking good. We're making progress. And on the next section here, I'm going to get to that decanting of the white here. So this is what I'm going to be using here next. This is Tamiya Racing White TS7. And what we're going to do is have a really cool demonstration what we're going to do to get that out so we can use it with a brush. Be back in a second, everyone. All right, guys, so this is a little section that I decided to put in here, and what we're going to do is called decanting. So I've got this nice kind of a yellowish creamy white. It's called Racing White TS7 from Tamiya. And what I want to do, I want to use this color to paint the life pods, the escape boats in the ship. So I've got a whole bunch of them. There's, you know, these here. There's some on the back of the tail section and a whole bunch of them on the saucer section. So I don't want to bother masking every single lifeboat on the ship and risk, overspray and everything. There's so much there that it would take forever. And the other times I've done this, I've done fine with just painting those lifeboats by hand. Maybe, put a little mask on the sides there, of course, but you don't have to mask it to prep for spray paint. So I don't have a bottled paint that's the right color, but I do have this, and this is a really nice life pod color. So I've gone ahead and I've shaken this up for about a minute, and it's ready to go. And so how do we do this? Well, you get a bendy straw, just a regular old flexible bendy straw, and I've cut it so that it goes from, if I'm just handing it here, it go right into this bottle. So you got a clear bottle that you can get at any hobby shop with a lid. I did have like some kind of a purple in there at some point, but I cleaned it out. So you have it about like that, and then all you do is you take your bendy straw, and you just want to work it in here. Maybe I should do this side for now. No. Because I was working it in before, so it's a little bent, but that's fine. You just got to kind of get it so it will stay put a little bit, like there. And then you want to put this in there, and you want to push against, you want to gently push toward the can just a little, just to keep it connected. And then we're going to go ahead and hold down press the button here. Okay. And that's that. We'll take the straw off. Throw that away. I'm going to definitely wipe down my spray can there. Give it a good shake. And as always, I'm doing this off camera, of course, but you hold your can upside down and you spray it for a second or two. Don't forget to do that, or you get clogged, and it is ready to go. So we'll put the cap back on, and we'll close that. And I've got plenty of paint now to paint the lifeboats on, and so I'm going to let this cool off. It's very cold, and I'll give it a good shake. But it's good to go. Got plenty of paint there for these lifeboats. You don't need a whole lot of it. And I'll just get the brush and we'll start doing it. So yeah, cool little segment there. I liked first time I've actually done this before. I've seen it happen, but I've never needed to. But first try worked pretty good. So if I can do it, folks, you can do it too. All right, we'll be back in the next section. All right, guys, so before we move on, I just want to talk a little bit about how we're painting these lifeboats here. So I did, from the last section, I've decanted this. Now, I do want to point out that there was quite a bit of aerosol, or whatever the propellant is, sorry, in the bottle there. So I kind of had to blow on it a little bit and get it out. And then the paint was quite thin. So it's one thing I have learned from this. So, and pardon me, I've got the camera zoomed in really deep here. So I've gone in, I painted the engineering section here. So and it's been a while since I painted the lifeboat, so I wanted to kind of go over with a couple little techniques that have helped me. So I did let this paint here dry out a little bit, because again, the spray paint is very thin down. As you recall, like if we're spray painting, it would take multiple passes. So first thing to point out here is when we're painting these, you don't want to worry about getting these painted in one coat. Okay, so likely it's going to take a couple. And you kind of get into a groove on these. And what I mean is you start learning about how much paint should be on the brush, and for each boat. So right here, I've dabbed a little bit there on this lifeboat. Now I'm going to go over here and dab a little bit on another one. And you'll get a feel for it. And there's really no other way to explain what I'm doing here other than just saying you'll get a feel. Excuse me, I coughed. So I've dabbed a little bit on 3 of these, and what I'm going to do is just then use the paintbrush to just gently kind of push that to the edges from the middle. You don't want to start on the edges really. You just kind of want to work it a little bit to the edge. Okay, so there I've got it. Now you can see hopefully that it's really not perfectly covering it, and that's okay. It's one of the first things I remembered is you don't want to worry about doing this in one coat. It's just like with spray painting. You wouldn't worry about spraying it in one coat. So what you want to do here is lay down just enough to kind of cover the area. It's starting to dry out on me. I'm just putting a little bit more on the brush here, not a lot, not like as much as I started with. But you see here, I put a little bit and wiped it off, and you can see it's still kind of pooling off. So I've done those 3. And you may get enough paint on your brush to do 2. You may get enough to do 3. It all depends on how much you get on there and what kind of a groove you get into. I've generally, thinking back on this now, do 2 or 3 lifeboats at a time, and then move on. It doesn't take very long for this stuff to dry. And another thing, I'm keeping the lid on there. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for this stuff to dry enough to put on your second coat, but you can let it dry for as long as you want. So what you don't want to do now here is like here when I've got these little dry spots there, you don't want to worry about making it perfect. Like you don't want to put it there and go get more paint and just like let it pool on there. That's not going to work out very well, and you could use way more paint than you need to. But you do just enough to where you can work it around without it and maintaining control. So there's that, and I'm going to turn it around to the other side here now, and I'm going to hit the other side. So I'm hoping I'm making sense here. It's kind of hard to describe how to quote unquote get a feel for something. So I'm just trying to show you, and I'll do a couple more here. So I've splotted a lot on there. That's a big one. So there's there. And I've just made like kind of 3 dots, and then work it from the center out. Take your time. Don't worry about it being perfect. Again, that artist tunnel vision. It's very easy to focus on this tiny little lifeboat and see the little imperfections that you're putting into there. When you're finished and you're looking at it, you're going to be looking at it as a whole. You're not going to be looking at the one little lifeboat that you missed a corner on. And as you get better, in experience, you will do better with each one. Okay, so I'm going to load up a little more paint for the big one. I'm really brushing it off because even though I think I don't have any paint on the brush, I actually have quite a bit for one little lifeboat. So I'm just dabbing it and just gently working it from the center to the edge. And I can tell you now, when I'm using this decanted spray paint, it is very odorous. There's a lot of thinning agent in there, whatever they do. So there we go. I don't know how good it's coming out on the camera. I'm going to actually stand up and take a look. And we'll zoom in. Yeah, it looks pretty bad when you zoom in on it, but when you zoom out, it looks a lot better. So I'm going to wipe my brush off here, cover my little paint can. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and finish that off. So moving this to the side and zooming the camera out a little bit, I just want to show you. So when I started this, again, like it's been a while since I painted these lifeboats. You can see here I'm going to have to go back over a couple of these, and they're not quite perfect. These two ended up a little nicer. And when I zoom in, when I really look close, not zoom in, but when I look closely at it, it just makes me kind of wince. I got a little paint on me there. It makes me wince a little bit, but then when I bring it out and I look at it as an entire piece, and I'm going to have to do some correction here. That's a pretty big mess. And actually, what I did here, I actually masked this. And when I took off the paint, it looks like the paint had gone. These were my first couple, so it took me a little minute to remember what I'm supposed to do when I'm painting these. So that one's messed up. I'm going to have to come through with the light blue and just touch that up just briefly, just nice and easy. So yeah, on your first couple that you do, folks, when you're starting this thing, do them on the bottom. Start with ones on the bottom that you aren't readily going to see very often until you kind of get in that groove and you get a good feel for what you're doing. And then you work on the ones that are more visible, like here. So yeah, that's a goof. These could have been a little better. I'll touch them up. No problem. Nothing's perfect, you guys. I'm not entering any contests with these, like I've said a bunch of times. So, but on the whole, you know, when you look at it all together and from a distance, it looks okay. So again, tunnel vision, be aware of it. It's a real thing, and it's not always good. You don't have to be absolutely perfect. So we are done with that segment, and yeah, I'm not going to film the touch up there. That's pretty much it. I don't have the ability right now to do the saucer section because we're still having to go back and paint that. So alrighty, folks, we'll see you in the next segment, and I don't know what that's going to be, but we'll see you there. Okay, guys, we are just about getting to the final section of finishing the top of the saucer section. If you recall, I had to reblock this with black paint and do it all over again, which it's okay because I wasn't too happy with the color scheme that I had going on the top. The bottom of the saucer section is actually fine. I like it. We've talked about that one before, but the top, for some reason, just wasn't coming out as nice as I had liked it, and it wasn't turning out to be like this. So I was at a hobby shop pretty far away from here, and found some nice colors, and I found a gray that I really liked, and it is this light ghost gray, and it's coming out a little more blue than I had intended, but this is the actual color that I use. It's AS26, and it looks a little bit different on the model compared to the cap. I don't know what the camera's picking up, but it turned out to be great. It's got a bluish tint to it, and it's darker than the light blue. So these are now the three colors for the ship. We've got the light gray U.S.S, and that's AS16. That's the base color of the ship. Then we've got a light blue, which is AS5, which we've painted on the nacelles and the side of the secondary hull. And then there's this one. So I like these two because there is a distinction between them, and we're going to see something better. So I wanted to talk about that real quick. And then I'm just going to show a little bit of the masking. I don't think I had shown this part as much before. So I've already masked the outside. So what I'm masking to paint this here is going to be the light blue, as well as the bridge section. So we need to mask off all of this dark area here, as well as this kind of funny looking horseshoe that goes around the bridge section. This is going to remain the base color. This is going to be light blue, and this is light blue for this one. So we have to mask everything but that. And just to point out, when you guys are painting this stuff, it's strongly recommended after you do a top layer, wait at least 24 hours before you start masking to put something else. Because if it's not cured, if the paint's not cured perfectly, you will peel some paint off when you unmask. And maybe that's what I had done before. I may have done it a little prematurely. So I've saved this last section. I'm doing these little inside parts. So I want to show a little technique that I do. So it's going to be hard. It's really hard to kind of cut a piece of tape exactly this size. So that's number one. And number two, you don't want to touch the bottom of the paint any more than you absolutely have to, because it will lose some stickiness. So here's just a little hint. I'm going to zoom in here. We're going to be doing it right here. Okay, you can see that just fine. So I'm pulling some tape out, enough to kind of dangle the edge around. And I'm going to lay it down here, and I'm going to slide the tape over until it touches the edge, so it starts where I want. And then I'm going to put my finger down. And then if you see these panels, what I've been doing to get this curve nice, I'm just going one panel at a time. So here's one little rectangle, and then I'm going to turn the tape a little bit and pull it and do this one. And then this panel. So I'm using each panel, lining up each one as I go around, and then over time that makes a good circle. So I rub it down with my finger. Now, how to cut it off. So this is the tricky part. How do I know where to cut it? What I'm going to do here, and I normally do this with my fingernail, but I'm going to use the dental pick as a kind of a guide here. So this is where I'm going to cut off. So I'm going to take the dental pick, and I'm just going to lightly push in there just to give an indent into the tape. Sorry. So when I pull this off, I can see it. I can still see the indent where I did that, and that's where I know to cut. And I don't want to cut before. I'll cut a little bit before that line. I maybe cut it a little too short. But there there's a little gap. And that's fine, because we're going to put some tape going this way. So that's just a little hint. You put the tape down all the way and then peel back just enough to where it comes off. And then you use your scissors and just snip at the end. And that way you can lay it down really nicely. So I'm going to do this one more time with the part coming up here. Excuse me, my tape folded over a little bit. And it does help when you're doing this to try to cut, when you're cutting your tape, to cut it at a 90-degree angle to there, so that when you lay it down on the next piece, you get a nice square fit. So here we're going to do the same technique. I'm going to drag the tape to where I want it to start. It's a little bit too... There we go. Push it down with my fingers. Now I'm going to bring this out just a little bit. I don't want to waste any, but I want to bring it out so that it won't peel upward. So there we go. I'm going to do one more here. Sorry. On this side. Get it lined up, drag it. I'm stuck. So when you're masking, you want to take your time, of course. There we go. So I like this tape. It's not very tacky, so you can kind of drag it and it won't stick, and it only sticks when you push your finger in there. Oh, I didn't get a very good 90-degree there, did I? That's fine. Let me just snip it off and correct it. And that's that. So I'm just going to go around and do that for all these sections here. And then we'll get some thicker tape and cover the outsides of it. But this thin tape is really good for doing these circles because it's very stretchy. You can, let me zoom out here. Again, this tape's good for doing curves. It sticks really well. And just remember, if you're going on the curve, to extend the tape out a little bit further than where your curve stops, so that when it peels up, it'll peel up over here, and the rest of your tape will hold it down. Okay, that's it for the little masking bit here. I may come back and we'll show the finished masking product and go back over where we're going to paint, just for clarity. See you in a minute. All right, I decided to just record the rest of this masking here on the top part. This is to go over another little technique. So we've put the tape around the edges here, and what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling off 2-3 inch pieces of tape, and I'm just laying them down, overlapping just as I go around here. And what I'm hoping that will do is allow me to easily take the tape off when it's time. And the good thing about using this white tape and then the green is these dual colors really allow me to make sure I'm covering everything. I kind of like that I have this little bit of a border to go over. So yeah, I'm not taking large chunks. I don't want it to hang over too far and waste it and everything. So we're good there. And now the trick is to tape the inside edge here. What I'm going to have to do is probably use the X-Acto knife, and this is part of the reason I decided to record this part, because I want to record how I figure this out. So I'm going to put tape around the edge here over this darker gray, and remembering that I want to leave the bridge here open. So what I'm going to do is I've laid the tape down, and I'm going to use the curved dental pick here to really get this tape against the edge right here. I'm going to hold it up and make sure, yeah, you can see. So I'm just using this to find the edge with my dental pick. And that's going to allow me to make sure that I cut this correctly. Now, I don't want to saw it because I've got the paint here. There's a chance I might take off a little paint here from the corner, but that's okay. So what I'm actually just doing, I'm just using pressure to really bend this tape over. Now I'm cutting into it a little bit, but lightly. No, that didn't work, did it? Okay, let's try something else. So I've got that. Let me try, I'll cut it. So now that I've got this angle that I've defined with the dental pick, yes, this will work. There we go. So by using the dental pick, pushing that again, I defined how the angle is. So now I'm going to use this, and this is going to be able to be butted up right there against. There we go. See? Figured something out with the camera rolling. So that's a good technique. That dental pick thing is such a versatile tool when it comes to modeling. You can do so much with it. You can apply your decals with it and slide them around with that smooth edge or even the pointy edge. A lot of folks I've seen that will use the X-Acto knife, but you risk cutting your decal with that. So I like the dental pick, even though it's sharp, it tends to not pierce the decal as long as you're careful and you've got enough water there to slide them around. It's a good pointing tool for when I'm showing you stuff, and then it's also really good for getting tape, into those edges with that rounded, curved, pointy part at the end. It really lets me kind of, like with this masking tape, really get that in there on the weird kind of curves and stuff where my finger necessarily won't fit. My big fat finger. So here we are. We're coming to the edge. That'll do. Again, looking at it from the artist perspective, you have to decide when you're going to let imperfections remain and when you're not. I still could be more perfect here. If I zoom in, you'll see, you can see it's not a perfect curve, but I just know from experience that in the grand scheme of things, that little imperfection will not show unless you're really looking for it. And I've said it before a few times on this model that I'm not giving this to anybody. I'm not selling it. I'm not displaying it in a show. So I'm letting certain imperfections go by. So, all right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and mask this part here. This is going to be a fun adventure. Same kind of technique, little pieces and putting it around. I'm not going to film that, but I'll come back and we'll look at it and then paint it and see what she looks like. See you in a moment. And here we are, we're all masked. This is about 5 minutes after the last segment. So all I had to do was just go around here, the edge of the bridge deck or the BC deck with this tape. And if you recall back to the first time we had masked this, what you do is you come up with the tape and then let it tail off straight off this way, because this curve is such a tight curve going all the way around it with one piece of tape, it would have just peeled off. So I did this in 3 sections that came off, one like this, another one this way, and then another one that way. So there was like 3 pieces of tapes trailing off, and that way that just keeps the curve nice and controllable. And then just piece together tape there and we're ready to paint. So be right back and I'll paint it up and let it dry, and then we will take off the paint or the tape and see what she looks like.